and I would play it and then have to go to school, but because I didn't have a memory card and I didn't want to start over, I would leave the PlayStation running and come back every evening and just play Metal Gear Solid 2 again. When I was, I can't remember how old I was. When did Metal Gear Solid 2 come out? I was probably about 12 to 14, in that range. I'd never really played Metal Gear Solid before until I found a copy of the original at a car boot sale. Played it all night, completed it, immediately went out, found Metal Gear Solid 2, came home, and at that point I had a PS2, but I didn't own a memory card, and so I would play Metal Gear Solid 2 before I went to school. And then it was on one of those big old CRTs that kind of went poof when you press the button. And I would play it and then have to go to school. But because I didn't have a memory card and I didn't want to start over, I would leave the PlayStation running, which nowadays with, climate issues at the time, but I didn't know that. I was a school kid just being silly. I would leave the PlayStation 2 running and come back every evening and just play Metal Gear Solid 2 again. And I did this for probably a week until I completed it, and then immediately started again. And just for probably months on end, all I could do was play Metal Gear Solid 2. I wanted to learn every little thing. I went through the whole game without killing anyone. I went through collecting all the dog tags. Eventually my friends and I got into trying to speed run the game. My friend had a whole notebook full of guard patterns and things like that. And I think we got it down to about an hour and 45, that might be exaggerating. But then as we got older, every time my friends would come over, we would fire up the PS2, get Metal Gear Solid 2 out again, and just play through the game in a couple of hours, and it never got old. I've probably played Metal Gear Solid 2 at least 100 times, and it still is one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had on any video game console.
For me, my favourite PlayStation 2 memory is probably when I first got it. So I just remember, I had the PS1, PlayStation 2 just came out. So my parents took me to one of those exchange places. Sure. Not computer exchange, but it was I think it was just a local exchange place that was just
around the corner. Little store.
Yeah. So we took all my old PlayStation 1 games on PlayStation 1, traded it in, and then I got a PS2 with Ratchet Clank and
love that.
Jack and Dexter. But all I played was Ratchet Clank.
Sure. I absolutely love Ratchet Clank. I guess they introduced you to the platformers and all that sort of stuff as well, right?
Exactly. And it was just so much fun. It was so bubbly.
I think one of my biggest memories of the PlayStation 2, and it's a little bit hazy, but it was playing Gran Turismo with my dad. And he's expressed interest in games before, but he's a massive racing fan as well. So that was the first time me and him would sort of sit down and just play games together properly and do, I don't know, rally mode and all sorts, just for quite long time as well. And it was just really nice, really fun basically.
Yeah, I think it's just our folks, right? This is what both our stories are to do with our parents, so it's a nice bonding experience with
pretty
them.
Much,
I mean, my parents still don't understand gaming, but I know they definitely didn't understand gaming back then, but they still supported it and got me consoles and
definitely it might have been a little route for them to kind of understand our enjoyment of games at the time as well.
Yeah, and it was the little encouragement that I definitely needed, because here I am now working in the games industry. So it kick-started all of this.
Yeah.
I think it was probably Beyond Good and Evil, the Ubisoft, the Michel Ancel game. At that time, you were really starting to see games exploring a range of different kind of characters and things. I think before that, there were a lot of games about sort of Space Marines and a lot of games about sort of Vikings and things like that. But all of a sudden, here was this game where you're this photojournalist, you live in a cool lighthouse, which I've always sort of wanted to live in, and your best friend's a pig. Again, personal ambition fulfilled. And it was just this very interesting European science fiction. So the world didn't look like Blade Runner, it looked sort of like Venice. And you were floating around this hoverboat and snapping pictures of animals. And there was just something about being a photographer, having a job in a world which didn't involve being a soldier or something like that, that just made me think, God, this is the range of what games can do is really interesting now. Games are telling all these different sorts of stories. And even though actually I look at it now and it is sort of a Zelda-alike, it still has that richness and sort of personality, character to it, which has made it feel really, really, really special.